those who do stand still actually essentially end up going backwards. I'd be feeling the heat more now if we didn't have the solution of flexible fees.
The acquisition of Sears, how did you make the deal happen? So Nick, first of all, thank you so much for taking the time to chat to me today. It's great to be in Wokingham.
Yes, pleasure, welcome.
Thank you.
Down south.
And so I'm really interested in a few big topics today with you. You run an incredible business.
Thank you.
Adopted flexible fees in a way which is now creating record-breaking results.
Yes.
You've bought another company and you've retained the brand, and you're a huge adopter of new technology. So you're definitely not your average independent estate agent.
Okay.
So
It's good to hear.
What I'd love to know is what still excites you about the business today?
I think all of those things that you described, really. So I'm not one to sit still. So always looking for not necessarily the next opportunity, but very much, what can we do to improve where we are? I'm a firm believer, those who do stand still actually essentially end up going backwards. And I think particularly in this industry, around technology at the moment, there's obviously so much that's been coming forward in terms of prop tech over the last few years. And we've certainly adopted a number of those. Not all of them have worked, but we're certainly not afraid of trying things. But I think that's what does excite me. It's kind of what is out there at the moment that can help us to give our guys the best tools, the best support. And I think particularly at the moment with, coining your phrase in terms of high tech, high skill. And that's really what we want to be able to do. So the guys can really get on and enjoy and do what they're best at doing. And that's what I like seeing is the guys thriving. That's what excites me. So I miss being on the front line as much as I was now running the business more. But that's the bit that I do enjoy, that seeing what's out there through my network and, what's coming forward as to how we can, as I say, get the very best for our customers, ultimately.
Yeah. And it's a different pleasure, isn't it? Seeing other people thrive.
Definitely.
And, being a facilitator of that rather than the thrill that maybe we once got from going out and winning
running
business.
back into the office with the signed agreement or getting that offer tied up. And, there's still bits I get involved with, particularly on the land side and so on. So I get my kicks that way.
Yep.
But you're right. It is definitely seeing where they get the wins.
And so when you started your career, am I right in thinking it was at Atkinson and Keane, is that right?
No, that was a big part of my career. But I started at GA, General Accident Property Services.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
So what is now your move?
Exactly, that's true. So so weirdly, I always wanted to be an estate agent.
So you're one of the few.
One of the very few, I'd say probably less than 1%. But I applied for work experience at 3 or 4 different agencies in Wokingham at the age of 15. Didn't hear back and then thought, okay, I'm maybe going to have to go with something else or try some more. And then literally at the 11th hour, I heard back from GA Property Services. They said, come in. Went in there for the week, absolutely loved it. Had a very supportive manager and assistant manager in there who really took me under their wing that week. Then offered me a Saturday job and an evening job as well. So whilst I was doing my exams and so on, was in there doing that. And then, offered me a full-time position in their Bracknell office. So a week after finishing my GCSEs, I stepped straight into a full-time role and was there for a year. Thoroughly enjoyed that. Within 6 months, became their top neg in the whole of the South region, and then moved on to Romans for a short spell when Romans were only 3 offices. So working closely with some of the guys there, and then had the opportunity to go and work at Atkinson and Keane, which was a new business where 2 of the guys from GA Property Services headed off and started. Big jump, new town, new territory. Was there for 14 years and mid-20s became director, and we grew to 3 offices. And a great business in that area. So thoroughly enjoyed it.
So why did you want to be an estate agent?
Good question. Why did I want to be an estate agent? So I remember when my mum and dad got their house valued back in Wokingham in the late 80s, and I remember sitting in the living room with my mum and the estate agent, I think 2 or 3, watching them present, and I just thought, this looks great. I like it. I always like talking to people. And I think at that age, at 13, 14, I was one of those. I had a milk round. I had about 7 paper rounds. I washed cars. I mowed lawns. I was always looking for ways that I could make money and, you know, and just, what was I going to do next? And I think, 2 of the guys turned up, one in an XR3i, one in a Golf GTR, something. Yeah, I was car mad as well. So it's probably that. I thought, I want a bit of that. So I think it was a combination, but it certainly excited me. And then when I had the opportunity to do the work experience and actually going out on the appointments, seeing exactly what they did, and that was in 1990, I think. So it was when the market was pretty grotty, to be honest with you. You know, it was certainly after the heyday of the late 80s. And I think that's the other thing that served me well, is that's the market I entered into. And that's where I thrived, was, being hopefully tenacious and creative and so on. The deals and the buyers and so on certainly were not walking through the door. And I remember certainly when I started full time, it's dreadful thinking back, but without exaggeration, we were dealing with a repossession a day at GA Property Services. So that was the main, our main market in terms of actually selling properties. So it's a very peculiar market in the way that I sort of started with, but I'm pleased to say it got better from there.
So a couple of things there. So first of all, for those people who are maybe too young to remember the interest rates in the early 90s,
yes,
we're talking 15%.
We are, so, exactly, and that's the tail end that I came in on. So it was, exactly, hard for a lot of people. Yeah, a lot of businesses were failing, weren't they? A lot of people, for those reasons, unfortunately, were struggling. The banks had they couldn't afford to. They had very little sympathy, didn't they? And they were pulling people's homes from them very quickly. So it was an interesting time.
Yeah, definitely. Repossessions, even the 2008-2009 financial crisis.
Yeah,
they were nothing like
like
they were in the early 90s. It was totally different. There was none of this sort of like forgiveness over debt or anything like that, or repayment holidays. It was literally the houses just got taken straight away.
Absolutely, it was, and it happened very, very quickly. So that's where I started, and still here.
Well, the other similarity is that Peter Knight's story about how he became an estate agent also involved a car and a house.
I have spoken to Peter on that, exactly, yes, and I think, he had similar incentives, maybe.
He did, yes, he did. I think it involved a girl, a car and a house, in the 3 component parts of his story, which, having met Peter and having known Peter for a number of years, that feels like the right combination.
It definitely does, I can't include the girl bit, but it definitely was the car and probably the opportunity to earn money and have fun.
Yeah. I mean, one of the other things which sort of strikes me about that story is that if we imagine a 15-year-old work experience, guy or girl coming into our business now, for that person to then become the top selling negotiator by the age of 17, that I feel like that would be really unusual now. And I feel like that opportunity is probably less common. A lot of the guys that I speak to now, started at 17, 18, 19, and they were out listing, or they were a branch manager by their early 20s.
By their 20s, absolutely.
Whereas now, we look at a 27, 28-year-old and go, well, have they got enough experience sometimes? Do you ever find yourself doing that? Yeah,
definitely. Yeah, I think we do. And I think, perceptions probably more than anything have changed, I think, rather than people. That's how it to me. And I think, I wasn't a particularly academic person. So, if you read through all my school reports now, you think, what are you doing sat here? And it was always, if only Nick tried hard. I was always the one that was trying to make people laugh in the classroom and getting myself and others into trouble. But I think when I got into, I was very different, as I say, in work, incredibly disciplined, head down, enjoyed the banter and all the rest of it. But I was always the first in at the age of 16, 17, always the last to leave, literally 6-7 days a week. And I think it's trying to find those people, as you say, who have that. And, we've got some great people in our business now, slightly older than that, but still in their late teens, who have come in over the last year or two, 2 or 3 recently, and they are absolutely awesome. They've got such great work ethic. They clearly want to succeed. They're very ambitious, but they take it all on board as well, because maybe in the past we have been through a phase where I think people, some younger people, make that clear, were perhaps, you give that to me and then I'll think about doing it. That sort of instant gratification that they did want, and just a very different outlook, I think. Whereas I think, as I say, at the moment we've got some great people in there. In our business now, who, very similar to me. I think they want to be the top dogs. They enjoy the training. What can I do next? And I think that's really important. That we support people on that. And going back to how I started my career, I've never forgotten that. And the people that I'm very thankful for, who did, as I say, because I didn't learn it all myself. I had that enthusiasm, definitely. But there's a lot I need to be taught, and particularly back then, as I say, with the market conditions that we were in.
And it's really interesting, isn't it, when you think about one of the great things about the industry is that people can come in with very little experience.
Absolutely.
Often very little skill, but lots of energy, lots of graft, a real hunger and a desire. And in a very short space of time, you can be producing results which are better than other people with much more experience than you.
Yeah,
and so
we see that now.
Absolutely, and that meritocracy, that idea that the best people rise to the top, I think is a fantastic, facet of this industry. It really is.
Yeah, couldn't agree more.
Okay, so let's move on a little bit then. So you became a director in your mid-20s.
Yep.
And that was with Atkinson and Keane?
It was, yes. Yep.
Right. Is that Nigel?
It was, Tim Atkinson and Nigel Keane, that's right.
Yeah,
yep.
Great. And you were there until when?
2012, when the business was then acquired by Romans.
Yeah.
So I stayed on there for a short time, but Romans had become very different to the Romans that I first worked for a short period of time. Great business, but I'd already very quickly thought, I now want to do something on my own, and was looking to do a cold start. And then someone had tipped me the nod that Duncan was looking to call it a day, and has actually had a couple of sales that unfortunately had faltered. So it was quite an interesting one, because I tried to get hold of Duncan on the phone, and he probably thought I was another sales call. So didn't hear back. So on a Sunday evening, I popped a note through his letterbox, private and confidential. He rang me at 8:30 on the Monday morning. We met at a local hotel in Bracknell at 11 o'clock on the Monday, and at 12 o'clock we shook hands on the deal.
Great.
It was brilliant, he was motivated to sell. It was the perfect business for me to take over, which was Duncan Yeardley. It had been going since 1987. Duncan had done a great job, but by his own admission had lost a bit of motivation. So it had no website, had no lettings, but it had a very good standing in the local community in terms of reputation and a good following. Only one other full member of staff. So took over from there, and since then we've grown and grown.
Absolutely.
But still with the same culture and, certainly the same reputation and standing that, he implemented from day one.
Amazing. So was it the sort of deal where, when you look back on it now, you were sort of, because it didn't have any lettings in, and therefore there wasn't like...
It's a very simple business.
There wasn't masses of value in it, that you were able to get an opportunity, which maybe if you were trying to get into it now, as an employee, trying to then take that first leap, it would have been tricky, or?
I think I timed it very well. I think it was a fair deal for both of us, but to be able to get in there from day one with, as I say, everything that you could operate with, and valuations were coming in, viewings. We had property stock. I took over a pipeline. I think it was 75, 80 grand at the time, which back then, with values and so on, was more than reasonable for what our running costs were. So from day one, I was making money. Whereas the cold start, and certainly looking now with one of our offices, we did a cold start. It's flipping expensive.
Well, thank you for choosing your language so carefully there. I really appreciate that.
But it is, and I think that's the bit, as you say, now is a lot harder to do. So I think, although you're right, because it didn't have that asset of lettings, but it gave us a great platform to, and within 6 months we rebranded, we got a website, redid the office, started lettings, and the exciting part of the journey started.
Great. And one of the bits which I'm really interested in is the acquisition of Sears.
Okay, yes.
And so when did that take place?
2023, so 3 years ago.
Okay, so
literally 3 years this month, in fact.
That's interesting. So not that long ago?
No,
okay.
not at all,
And so just for, again, those people who don't know, Duncan Yeardley's got 2 sites, one in Bracknell.
We've got Bracknell, where, as I say, was the original office that we're still in now, albeit twice the size, but since 1987. So 40 years old next year, the brand, so big birthday. We acquired a small business in Sunninghill in Ascot, back in 2021.
Yep.
And yes, we've got the Ascot office there with Duncan Yeardley. And then, yeah, as I say, we acquired Sears in 2023.
Fantastic. So all of the multi-site growth then has been since 2021?
Yes, it has.
Right, okay.
And it's
been a big
strange.
journey then.
It has been a big journey because I think going back to COVID, that was a real turning point for a lot of people, wasn't it? So I'm sure you know people, Ian, as I do, that it got there and thought, do you know what? I don't want to do this anymore. There's more to life, and therefore they either sold their businesses or decided to take a different path. For me, I sat there, certainly as we were coming out of COVID, and thought, I want to do more. And I'd always been very happy with, Duncan Yeardley, and a question I was asked very regularly by people is, when are you going to open up the next office, Nick? What are you going to do? And I even was presented with a couple of probably quite good acquisitions, which I don't kick myself now, but, maybe I should have looked at. But yeah, again, I think it was probably just where I was psychologically. For since COVID, we took over that business a year or so later. And that was a big learning curve, because that step going from 1 to 2 offices, all of a sudden I can't be in 2 places at once. Bracknell was at that point an incredibly successful office. Like many businesses, we had a phenomenal year in 2021. And a great team in there, superb manager that was running the office at the time. So that allowed me to go and set up, as I say, an Ascot. So yeah, but then completely out of the blue, we were presented with the opportunity for Sears, which we were the 2 main independent agents, not necessarily the 2 biggest, but the 2 main family-run independent agents in Bracknell. And certainly, from 2015 through there, we definitely, bumped heads on a few things, our valuers and so on, but all in good spirit.
Yeah,
but
of course.
I was not expecting necessarily for that opportunity, 1, to come up, and 2, for the previous owner to want to flog it to me.
Well, I think, you can have strong competition and very healthy respect, and the 2 things often go together, don't they? Can I just go back to a comment that you made about psychologically, when you sort of made that decision to go from 1 site to 2, when those previous acquisition opportunities, you said that psychologically you weren't quite ready for it. What do you think changed?
It's a good question. I don't know if I've necessarily got the true answer to that. I think, as I say, for me, maybe when we were all sat there throughout COVID wondering what the heck is going to happen now, will I have a business? But we just didn't know what the outcome was going to be. And I guess we were very fortunate, weren't we, in this industry, that the first thing to be turned on again was the housing market. Yeah. I mean, it certainly caught us all by surprise. But yeah, I just remember sat there thinking, and I got a call from, a guy that I know very well, Peter Fuller, you do as well, who is my first manager at Romans, and we've kept in close contact, got a huge amount of respect for Peter, and what he went on to do, obviously, with mentoring, coaching and lettings, but also in the acquisition space. So he presented me with this opportunity, and it just got my mind thinking. So the others, I think I'd probably just dismissed before, because I was very, as I say, I don't like to use the word content, but I was just happy with my lot. I wanted to be not necessarily the biggest, but definitely, and we did become, I believe, the best agent in Bracknell in terms of our reputation, our service offering and so on. And with everything that was going on in Bracknell and surround in terms of development and so on, we were starting to do very well on the new home side. I was getting involved in the land sector and really enjoying that. So I felt there was still an awful lot of juice to squeeze out of the lemon in Bracknell. And I guess, looking at other businesses who had maybe gone to 2, 3, 4 offices, and actually said to me, I wish I'd kept, some of them have said, I wish I'd just kept it simple at one office. And I think our journey back at Atkinson and Keene, actually, where we had a similar situation, Maidenhead, we were very dominant. It was generally a very profitable office. We opened in Windsor, and it was always hard, despite them being connected in many ways, just down the road and in the same county, but to try and replicate that. So I think, there were things probably more from the past that I thought, do I really want to do that? But then all of a sudden,
it just happened.
It felt right.
Yeah. Do you think that sort of consolidation which you had, of getting Duncan Yeardley and Bracknell to be, as in your own words, the best independent agent in Bracknell, that then set a foundation for this expansion?
I genuinely believe it did, and I'm a firm believer that a lot comes down to timing. And I think the thing is as well, digressing slightly, I always enjoyed still being an estate agent. So right up until certainly the point of COVID, albeit maybe slightly less because I was getting involved, as I say, in new homes, land and so on, but I was still very much out regularly valuing. I was still working Saturdays. I loved going out and doing viewing runs on Saturday. I liked speaking to people coming in the office. So I was very much involved there. And I think, again, probably with the whole COVID piece, that when we stepped away from the shop fronts for a little while and actually looking at the business and reviewing things, that for me, I think, was that moment again where, right. But then when we did get into particularly the second office, which was a very different business to ours in terms of how it was run. So we had a couple of people that stayed with us. So to try and introduce our culture, if you like, and our values into that was quite challenging. But then particularly when we did have the opportunity to acquire Sears, which, although I guess from a public's perception point of view, were quite similar businesses, but how they were run were like chalk and cheese. So I had some good opportunities there to go in, make some quick wins, win some hearts and minds, and hopefully that's what we did.
Great.
And it's been onwards and upwards.
So the big decision is obviously when you acquired the business in Ascot, you rebranded it as Duncan Yeardley.
We did, yes, which was always the intention straight away.
And when you acquired Sears, you kept it as a separate brand. So
we did.
So you're running a two website strategy.
See the wrinkles and the grey hairs coming through.
So just a lot of people listening to this will be thinking, why?
Why? Yeah, absolutely. So when we had the opportunity and we were doing the deal, if you like, we managed somehow to keep it under wraps, which I'm always surprised by these things. I think people had suspicions, but anyway, once it did happen, my thought process probably was that we would amalgamate it all into one. So we basically went from the one office DY in Bracknell. Sears had two sites in Bracknell, so we had three offices at that time altogether in Bracknell. So three leases, three lots of commitments from that point of view, and just felt that our dominance and our reputation, not that Sears had a bad one in Bracknell at all, but the synergies, all the obvious reasons that we can fold it in. The Sears Wokingham office that we took on board, they'd only been going for a couple of years. You had a very strong start. Oliver and the team here had done a great job to really hit the ground running. But 2 years, you could probably go in and change the name. They didn't have that legacy, basically. But very quickly, and remember, so when we acquired the business, as I say, it's 2023, it was not a good year for the market.
Sure.
Liz trusted.
Mini budget.
Yes, exactly. All that. So, we'd had the nonsense of that with the interest rates and so on. So I guess from the market's point of view, we had those challenges then. A lot of properties were sticking. Prices certainly that year after, obviously, the height of the COVID market were falling back. And very quickly in Bracknell, we, particularly me and Oliver, realised the benefits of actually having those two brands there. And I think when we did the acquisition, I mean, as you know, when you see things, people acquire businesses, mergers, acquisitions, there's often, out there on LinkedIn, it's in property industry eye, whatever it is, we've just done this, I didn't do any of that. I just kept it. It wasn't a secret, but we didn't shout from the hills. And the reason was that I certainly felt initially, and the bit that we did literally from week one, is I wanted to analyse as to how many clients were calling us out from Sears and Duncan Yeardley to value their property. And that surprised me.
As in which different clients, in other words?
So Mr. and Mrs. Jones looking to sell their property, they pick up the phone to get 2, 3, 4 valuations. How many times were we being called out? And we were being called out a lot. And I think because they were looking to choose a certain type of agent, as I say, independent, family run, whatever, doing their research, we had strong reviews, all the rest of it. And I thought, hold on a minute, if I lose one of those brands, we don't get 2 bites of the cherry.
I see. So actually I'd misunderstood to begin with, which is actually you were getting a different market, but actually you were getting overlap.
That was initially, it was the overlap we were getting. So I thought, okay, we need to just carry on and do this for a little bit longer. So that in itself, once we really got our, if you like, our head under the bonnet in terms of the running costs and so on, made the decision to close one of the Sears offices where the lease was coming to the end, and that was always going to be our main intention.
One was that?
That was a high street office we had, which was right at the top of the high street. it was a huge office, 4,500 square feet. No, it's just under 4,000 square feet. We occupied a small part of it. It was 100 grand a year with rent and rates, plus exactly. So we closed that down and put into the other office, which is on a relatively new housing development in Bracknell, where it's opposite a school. We got a co-op next door, big car park. People walking past constantly with their dogs and prams and so on. So more eyeballs on the brand and in the window. So, but we had 2 people in there before, so they were rattling around in it. So we now got an office of dozen people in there, and that worked incredibly well. So we decided we reduced our cost massively. And then, with where the market did get tougher in 23-24, was what we now call the collab. So there's no other agent in the town that has that second solution. So, for instance, if Duncan Yeardley, through no lack of effort, but it happens, they were not successful in selling a property, we now have another solution for you, Mr. Preston. We've got our sister brand, how are we going to phrase it, Sears, and what we're going to do is we're going to ask them to also launch the property, and the amount of success that we've had from that and the amount of fees that we saved in terms of the guys, it's very simple. They get 50%, depending on 50% each, regardless of who sells it. So that's the bit we probably had to change, because we had 2 brands that had been used to competing with each other, and now you all now need to get on, see the benefits and so on.
And how does that work in terms of competing? So there must be situations, mustn't there, where they're both up for an instruction?
Absolutely. And in the early days...
And how do you box that in terms of a set of rules and obligations? Yeah,
and it's definitely it was a challenge. I wouldn't say it is now, to be fair, because we are all one big... That's sounding cheesy, one big family.
Sure.
We really are. And the guys get on well. And they actually now definitely see the bigger picture of we've got something unique here that we can offer, and they'd rather have 50% of something than 100% of nothing. So that's how it works. But they do understand that they go head to head. And often now, as time has moved on, we're more transparent with the client. And I don't mean that in an underhand way that we weren't before, but if we know that if Duncan Yeardley know that Sears are going out, then we'll actually have that conversation when we're out with the customer, just so Sears are also part of us, or vice versa, and therefore we'll work together to try and win the business rather than it going to a third competitor. And the guys now, none of them like losing, of course, but they also realise it's horses for courses. They're going to win some, they're going to lose some, and they look at the bigger picture. But as I say, where they really have seen the value is that in that collaboration, where we can pick up on the instructions that unfortunately would have otherwise gone to a competitor. And we've really spent a lot of time in terms of coaching and encouraging to do that as early as possible. We all know as agents, when you're running out of steam on an instruction, and you don't want to wait until the horse bolts and you get that disinstruction letter in your inbox, or they ask that question, how long have I got left on the agreement? We're doing that before, or trying to do that before. So that's worked incredible. So I guess long way round, but that's really where we ended up keeping the 2 brands. And if you look now as our dominance across those 2 brands in Bracknell, it's huge. We're the biggest by far, and I don't mean that just in terms of market share, because that's not something I get obsessed about. We take a lot more out of the market in terms of commissions than any other agent, and we wouldn't be able to do that with a single brand.
Fascinating. So, but it does sound to me like the strategy evolved, rather than on day one you said, right, this is what we're doing, that actually you felt your way through it based on what was happening and measuring and testing and just deciding as you went through. Is that fair?
It is fair, and I'm a bit of an old-fashioned gut guy, if you see what I mean, if it feels right, and also holding my nerve on things. There's things, definitely with the Sears acquisition, if I had my time again, there's a lot of things I did not get right, or we did not get right. I wish I'd done sooner. Other things that I wish, I hadn't.
Anything you're happy to share?
I think it's probably more around kind of what we've described, really, but trying to bring the teams together, so we did bring the teams together on certain things, but I think probably just getting them to work a bit closer from the start. That's probably where I was, because again, that being undecided as to what we were going to do with
Sure.
the two brands, so I was probably just holding my nerve on things. Also probably with the letting side of things as well, we had some challenges there which we had to overcome. We're dealing with that, so I think probably my head was buried in that with a couple of other people, from a compliance point of view and so on. We needed to get that all sorted, so I was probably distracted from certain things in terms of moving that forward. But
So more collaboration earlier.
Exactly,
Yeah,
that was it. But
that'd
to
be
be
the
fair,
reflection.
Oliver and the team, the managers, certainly they were getting on and doing that, day to day. But I think probably I would like to have flicked the switch a bit sooner on that.
Great. So one thing, especially in our politics, which I hear an awful amount, is how hard politicians are criticised for changing their mind or U-turns. It's viewed as an act of failure. Whereas I think actually being adaptable in your plan in business is absolutely essential. You have to be able to adapt. And one of the things, as I listened to that story about Sears, is this idea that you went in with a sort of plan A, but you were flexible in what that plan looked like based on what happened.
Yeah, very true. And I think, from our point of view, partly with the market that we were in at the time, that probably did, if we were maybe in a more thriving market, then I may have stuck with plan A. But I think it was also, as I say, from our guys' point of view, literally up until a year or, certainly 2 years ago, regularly asking, so what are the intentions, Nick? So despite me, our company meetings and awards and so on, reassuring people this is the plan and so on. But I think, you have to be flexible, don't you? You really do, because I think if I had just stuck with it, and I had, people that I respect, that I work with, mentors and so on, who very much, let me say very much, they disagreed with what I was doing. They said, well, why are you doing this? Because, we've got 2 lots of accounts. We've got 2 different bank accounts. We've got 2 Rightmove accounts. The list goes on, the extra side. But if I look at, as I say, what we're actually now generating as a result of having the 2 different brands, but particularly in Bracknell, our overall market share, as I say, is incredibly dominant, and we wouldn't have that if we were to lose one of them.
And when you look back to sort of Countrywide in their heyday, the number of brands that they had in Milton Keynes, again, I forget the number, it was like 6 or 7 brands.
Really?
Competing
Wow,
against each
that
other
many.
in the same town. So this is a strategy which businesses which have done acquisitions have often lent into keeping competitor brands and competing them against each other. Countrywide being the sort of
and others, Dexter's do, don't they? In London, I think they're another great example of that. So and I think it certainly was for me, but probably others, our accounts, bookkeeping, marketing in particular. There's an awful lot of lettings and so on. We're running on 2 different CRMs. We're incredibly disciplined and were from day one in terms of data protection, GDPR and so on. The guys know very clearly that they're not able to share it, but they are essentially 2 different businesses.
Okay, great. Well, listen, it feels like a good time to take a break.
Okay.
So thanks very much for the chat. In the second half, I really want to delve into technology and also your approach to flexible fees.
No problem. Look forward to it. Thank you.
It was quick, it was responsive, it did the job on the tin.
Really simple, very straightforward.
Amazing, mind-blowing, to be honest with you.
The thing I like best about Digital Negotiator is its ability to provide time for the team to be able to focus on the things that are going to generate the business more income.
The fact that it's text message sounds really simple, but emails just get lost now. Text messages seem to get answered really quickly.
It is going to be something that is very consistent, and I think that's one of the issues that we have within the industry is the consistency of those behaviours.
The fact that it can automate so many of the processes that are basic tasks that are still being undertaken, often by expensive frontline negotiators. It's going to free up so much more time for valuable people to do valuable jobs.
We're going to mine data with far more focus, far more diligently, and obviously the results will come from that.
I think as a business owner, you can relax. The out of office hours, there is something else there capturing all those opportunities, and meaning when your team comes in the next day, they've got a degree of qualification, the diary filled, and other opportunities looked for.
The big key thing is the 65% outside of working hours and the response time thing. That's just magic. The thing I love about it most is it's so progressive.
So it's not off the shelf when we've finished. It's like we're going to make it better and better and better with feedback.
It's going to make our out of hours really effective for clients. I think digital negotiator is definitely the way forward. Get on board, join the party.
So Nick, one of the things which I've seen a lot of is that guys maybe who are our age exiting the businesses.
Right.
Yeah. And not necessarily the same number of new businesses being formed and built, like multi-branch regional type businesses, as there are people who are then being acquired by LRG and Lomond and people like that.
Yep.
And the bit which I'm interested in exploring is, what do you think the model for growth looks like for the future? So, you know, if you were maybe going back to your mid-20s,
yes,
and you're a director of an independent agent,
yep,
would you do the same thing that you've done?
Yes.
Great. And so why is that?
Because probably if I had, and I use this word mildly, but a regret is not doing it sooner. So I think, think of my journey earlier on in my career, and what I've done, what we've achieved now, because I certainly haven't done it on my own. You've got a great team around me. Is there's still definitely, as you say, although you've got the big boys that are acquiring, and to a degree they always have been, but there's a lot happening in that space at the moment, isn't there? But I still believe that, for good, strong, independently run agencies with the right culture, with the right team, technology, etc., they can still stand out massively from both the bigger boys, as has always been the case, I believe, but also from now maybe it's what's also happening, which is definitely a space for or its place, is the self-employed independent. So, and I think the journey that we're going on, and that's certainly going to be one of our next steps, as you're aware of, is having that almost hybrid, I guess, as a business.
So you definitely would still grow by acquisition.
Would,
if you were like 20, 25 years younger and, starting out, and you'd maybe just do it a bit sooner.
Yes, exactly that. I think, it probably would have reacting a bit sooner more than anything. And I think, going back to the Sears acquisition, really, where we were in the world at the time with what was happening with the market, the cost of borrowing. So, I risked quite a lot at that time, reasonably late on in life, put my family home on the line and, more borrowing than I would have ever dreamt of. But it felt right. Again, it's going back to, this is the opportunity, and I just knew when the first time I was told about it, I'm going to make this happen.
Good for you.
And it really was. I knew I was up against 3 or 4 other agents, or I don't know who, but I know that was the case. So, and I was probably on the back foot initially, but again, it was having that, I want this, and it was making it happen, both from getting the deal, but then actually the bits you need to make it happen.
So how did you make the deal happen?
So it was meeting with the previous owner, as I say, who I won't repeat exactly what he said to the agency who was selling the business when they said that I could be a possibility. But actually we got on well, and I think he very quickly then understood. And to be fair, he wanted the best for his legacy of the business, but his team. We wanted to make sure that someone was going to take over who had the right approach, was going to look after his people and so on. So that bit went well. We had a few challenges you would expect with any transaction, just in terms of the due diligence, but we worked through those. And I enjoyed that part massively. That was that's the bit that I really enjoy, is being on that side and actually getting an understanding of what is involved and having to make those decisions. Some things you have to pick your battles on, don't you, in terms of, no, that's non-negotiable, you've got to sort that out. And other things you think, okay, I'll deal with that then, fine. But just that understanding of the whole legal process, really, of going through it and what it meant for him, what it meant for me. Really enjoy that experience.
And so do you think you got the business because you offered the most money?
I know we were certainly up there, and in truth, we were quite. We had to pay a good number to get it, but again, I saw the potential in terms of how we could improve that revenue relatively quickly, just in terms of how we operate in Duncan Yardley. It was a very basic business in terms of its technology and structure. Just had a fairly basic CRM, but had nowhere near the bells and whistles that we do at Duncan Yeardley. So therefore it was relatively low overheads, but they just weren't exploiting the opportunities as what you could do. It was still being run, I think, as quite an old-fashioned estate agency from that point of view. And you need that, definitely, but they need to complement each other, as you well know.
And do you think there are any other factors other than the price then which made them go for your bid?
I think it was, as I say, the fact that it was going to the right, the right custodian, hopefully, that someone was going to just look after the business. Obviously, they had no understanding as to what we were going to do with the brand. They never asked, to be fair. So there was probably the assumption maybe that we were going to, fold it all into one. But I think it was more, as I say, that, just how we look after the clients, look after the people.
Yeah, my experience of this is that actually that matters a huge amount.
It does.
As an independent business owner buying other businesses.
Definitely.
The personal relationship and the feeling of that there's going to be a good custodian for their business is a massive deal.
You've put an awful lot into it, haven't
Absolutely.
you? Particularly as the guy beforehand he started it from scratch. He went through the same challenges I did, with the markets and employing people. The list goes on. So and he made his decision. It was time to call it a day. But you don't just want to walk away from it. And I do definitely think that there is more to it than price. And like you, I've spent time, having a beer or dinner with plenty of people that have bought and sold businesses, and that comes up time and time again. And I think that is really precious, as you say, to someone that is selling a business that's put their heart and soul into it. It's just who's going to be taking over and looking after it.
Absolutely.
Can't control any more than that.
No, exactly. Yeah, and as you say, price has got to be in and around.
Oh,
that
absolutely.
point.
Yeah.
But when it comes down to it, if there's a personal chemistry between you and the other business owner, it makes a massive difference. And obviously you've got a huge amount in common because you've literally been almost living the same life.
Yeah, true. Very true.
For a long period of time. Okay, so we touched on how the industry is changing.
Yes.
You alluded to self-employed as a model, and you mentioned that that might be an interesting hybrid for you going forward. So, why would you be looking at that as a hybrid rather than simply buying more branches, or would you say it could be a combination of the two? Like, how do you see that?
I see it as a combination of the two. We have had some conversations with other businesses locally in terms of possible acquisition. Nothing we've got in the pipeline at the moment, but I think one or two of those could happen at some point. They're just not ready yet. So, but again, we've got good relationships. So they've said, as and when I'll come and talk to you, Nick. So that could happen. So we'll wait and see. But I'm certainly not looking at doing acquisition for the sake of it. I.e., my ego isn't, I want 6 offices, I want 8 offices. It's got to be the right thing strategically and geographically for us, in order to do it. Like many businesses, the ideal would be if we could pick up, a half decent lettings book and fold it into our current operation. That would be the ideal, but we'll see. But yes, I think now certainly, and with what we've been working with yourselves on in terms of flexible fees, a number of we've got a couple of local competitors that are doing that, and to be fair, I think doing it very well. And obviously we've got all the big boys that are out there as well. But the one thing that they don't have is that ability to, certainly currently, to be able to, their recruits to be able to charge from month one.
Absolutely.
So that's the bit that we wanted to get right, and that proven case study, if you like, that we've got, and we've got plenty of them now, as you know. Yes. Someone coming in self-employed, we can definitely give them the support, whether it's Sears or Duncan Yeardley, in terms of the brand, the marketing, the space they can operate in, the support from the guys, the tech. But rather than them having to say, well, you basically have to support yourself probably for at least 6 months before you start earning anything meaningful, we've now got this solution that is going to work. And I think that's what's going to set us out from our local rivals. Yeah,
totally. So what made you decide that this was a route that you wanted to pursue?
In terms of the flexible fees?
Well, self-employed.
Self-employed.
I guess, yeah.
So I just think that there is, clearly an increasing... demand isn't the right word, is it? But it's just a bigger space out there for that now. I think good quality agents, as we plenty are very happy working for someone. They want that security, and there's nothing wrong with that at all. I think there's others out there that are more entrepreneurial. They want the support of maybe a local brand, but they do want that flexibility. So I think we have to look at, it's not a one size fits all, and if we can continue to grow our business and our brand by working with partners that align to our values and so on, then that's what excites me. So yeah, I think it's we almost not have to go down this route, but it just seems logical to me. Yeah, it really does.
Absolutely. And it's that idea that you can effectively, when you think about becoming a self-employed agent, I think the scariest thing about it is you've got no revenue for the first 6 months plus.
Indeed.
Probably,
yep.
Assuming that you get out to a good start.
Yes, assuming.
Yes, you do. You've got no brand recognition whatsoever, other than any personal brand that you might have within your local marketplace, and you have no data from previous customers or clients or valuations that you've seen before, unless you've stolen it from your existing employer.
Yep.
And so
does that happen?
No, I'm sure it doesn't. And so you've got those 3 obstacles, and actually, with flexible fees, you give them the ability to generate money straight away.
Yes.
For you and for them. You give them a brand, or in your case, even a choice of brands,
exactly.
which they can actually pick from to think, well, am I a Duncan Yeardley agent or am I Sears? And then you give them access to a database where they can actually then start to prospect and generate their own valuations. So what I love about that solution is it effectively creates solutions to the core problems of the self-employed proposition, because you alluded to it earlier on in the conversation, is that it's very expensive to do a cold start. So when you go back to when we were in our 20s, the self-employed model didn't really exist in the form that it did.
At all.
So therefore your option was, I'm going to either buy a company, which probably most of us didn't have the money to do that, or I'm going to set up or the balls indeed, yeah. Or we're going to set up a company, in which case we need £250,000 to be able to do a cold start. But now agents can sort of have this sort of halfway house, can't they?
Absolutely, yeah.
And I think that's why so many of them are going for it.
Yeah, and I think that's to me, for all those reasons, I think that's why it's logical. You're giving people almost the choice, aren't you?
Yeah.
And I think certainly people that, particularly me and Oliver, that have spoken to potential recruits, we're talking to them about both. So even if it's a position here, by the way, this is what we're looking to do, and just getting an understanding is who's got the appetite for that as well. And to be fair, some have, some haven't. It's not a right or wrong, but we've got a solution, as you say, for both.
Interesting. It's definitely something which I see more and more agents talking about. And
definitely.
And interestingly, that's something which people ask me about, in terms of the consulting work, which I do really frequently now. It's like, how do I tackle self-employed? What do I do with this? Because I think as a strategy for growth, it's a really cost-effective way of doing it.
Yes.
Acquisition for lettings, expansion with self-employed agents for resi sales, and those 2 combinations can be really, really powerful.
Yeah. It's a bit that excites me. I think, our next phase.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay, great. And we've touched on flexible fees, haven't we? But
we have.
We've and I've done a podcast with Oliver.
Yes, you have. Yeah,
the sales director for Sears, and he's talked passionately about flexible fees. Could you give me a bit of an overview as to your journey with this, about where you started, where you're at now? Yeah,
definitely. So I think we've always been, I like to think, strong with our fees, sales and lettings fees in our businesses. We're firm believers in, we believe what we're worth, and I think what we offer in terms of, all the usual service, tools, experience, etc., how we can hopefully make that customer journey better, and ultimately how we can demonstrate that we can achieve a better price for people in a quicker timescale. We've got all the stats there. So all of our offices in the areas we compete in, we markedly charge more than our competitors. We don't get involved in the race to the bottom, dropping our trousers, etc. So I guess from that point of view, that's fine, but we still come up with the same challenges that everyone does, and more so our guys, despite all the training and the coaching and so on, is the fee objection. And it's a space that, with your organisation and so on, that I'd been watching. We'd had conversations, being part of Property Academy, speaking to people there, Relocation Agent Network, etc. And just a few people, but just getting an understanding of how that's working for some of those early pioneers, if you like. And for us, it was quite a long process, with conversations we were having. And what we decided, we were going to do it, but it was kind of, where we were with the acquisition. We had still quite a lot going on, and I think if we'd done it too soon, we wouldn't have got the engagement because we just had to sort out some other bits and bobs and and get things in place. So again, all about timing. But once we did, going back a step, we spent that time with the guys, letting them know that this is coming and this is what it's about, so we could help them to change that mindset, because it's a massive step, isn't it? When you've been going out for all of your career, basically quoting no sell, no fee, and now you've got this different solution. Yeah. We all know the benefits of it, but yeah, it's a completely different conversation, different proposition. And I think that worked well. So when we did then get into the stage of actually launching it with Greenhouse, with both brands, and we did it, as you know, simultaneously, we certainly had those early ones, the adopters that just understood the concept and have got on with it. And others, it has taken a little bit longer, both in terms of offices and individuals. But yeah, our overall success now, 1 year down the line, has been phenomenal.
So if you're happy to share, what sort of financial impact has it made?
It's made it. We are now a year in, and we're way over 250,000 now in terms of what we've had with upfront fee contributions, and we're now on our fourth iteration, if you like, in terms of what we've done with both our guys. We heavily incentivized our guys at the beginning, and we probably didn't get that right at the very beginning, and we lent on you, as you know, just for some advice as to what's worked within your business and so on, and that was very helpful. And we know we had some lost leaders with it. We were probably giving too much of the pie away, to be honest, but I have no regrets on that, because we got the guys to buy in, we got the engagement, got their understanding. The financial benefits for the business now, in terms of cash flow, committed sellers, fewer properties coming off the market, the guys completely buy now, and how they get paid, so both in terms of how they report their figures, but how they get paid individually on all their pay slips and so on. This is what you've been paid on exchanges, this is what you're getting paid on flexible fees, so they can actually see that number typically month by month growing. So they want to, we take a house on today, they get paid on it next month if there's been that contribution, and that's the difference of otherwise possibly being paid on it in 6 months if we're lucky. The financial impact, for many reasons, not just the business, as I say, individually, particularly with the challenges that all agents have in terms of the seasonal up and downs, the market pushing and pulling and all the rest of it, has helped dramatically.
And we were talking earlier off camera about the challenges that Bracknell has had with its searches, and therefore extra delays in pipeline turn, and actually that therefore the ability to charge up front has been
and I think
huge.
You can never legislate for these sort of things happening, can you? And we've all had them, whether it's something like that, which we've got two big offices in Bracknell. They're both volume businesses, so it's had a huge impact to our pipeline and our exchanges since the beginning of this year. And definitely I'd be feeling the heat more now if we didn't have the solution of flexible fees. So you could argue a little bit by luck, but I know of other agents that are in this, obviously in the same boat of us, and they just haven't got the backup of that. So it has helped.
Yeah, good. I'm delighted. Now, you've been a big supporter of Greenhouse.
Yes.
Yeah, you've invested in Greenhouse.
Yes.
And the Sears brand is now with Greenhouse. What made you decide to get involved?
So flexible fees was definitely the trigger, if you like, in terms of what you're offering there. We'd been looking at a new solution for our CRM in Sears. As mentioned, we had a relatively basic CRM. It did what it needed to do, did what it says on the tin and all the rest of it, but not particularly dynamic, and wasn't aligned with what we were doing within Duncan Yeardley. I think with Greenhouse, from the start, me and Oliver in particular just like what you stand for, in terms of how, with many other legacy CRMs, are adding things on, but actually they still do what they did 20 years ago, which is just no longer relevant now, to the modern agent, and certainly someone that does want to be, more innovative. So you've ripped it all up, you started from scratch, you built it up, and I love the fact that, we can adapt it to our business. We're still relatively early in our journey with it, but already the changes that mainly you, but now we can start to put into play that can make it ours, but is now going to start to do a lot of the heavy lifting for the guys. So the inquiries dealing with those, the digital negotiator side, the bits that they don't come in and necessarily get excited about, as you allude to. Yeah, do you want to come in on a Monday morning and pick up 50 portal inquiries, or can that have been done for you, that then you need to look in your diary and do the bits that you enjoy, the fun bits that we talked about at the beginning of the conversation that we all got into the industry for. So yeah, I think I love the direction you're going in, and as I say, I think particularly with flexible fees bolted in, the mobile, the way that you've adopted that as well, because I think too much is still laptop, PC, and agents now are constantly out and about and doing things. So yeah, I'm excited about what you're going to bring forward. We've got lettings coming in soon, and that's going to be a big plus, I think, for all of us. So no regrets.
Good. So high skill, high tech, that's what it's about. It's that foundation, isn't it? Fewer people, better paid, technology doing the heavy lifting. And that whole philosophy is, I think you've adopted it and adapted it so well. And the thing which has impressed me the most from our conversation today is as I've actually got to know you a little bit better, actually, in terms of your journey about how you got here, is what I love is your flexible approach. So I don't think you are too fixed in your mindset. I actually think that when problems emerge, what I'd listen to is a guy who adapts and is flexible. You have a plan, but you're always prepared to look and feel what is going on around you and adjust your direction accordingly. And in a world that is changing fast, there's no quality, I think, in leaders which is more valuable at the moment than adaptability and flexibility, because the pace of change is so extreme that if you stay static and just wait for the dust to settle and you're not in the conversation, by the time that you decide you're going to try and catch up, it's probably going to be too late.
Too late, yeah. I agree. I think you've just got to, haven't you, as a business and particularly as a leader, you've got to be able to pivot. You've got to be nimble. And I think there's so many things that we cannot control. And I think, one that you'll be familiar with, control the controllables, and it is exactly that. And, so when something does, we have our business plans, that we all do, ready for the new year. They're reviewed each quarter and so on. But, we encourage the guys to be flexible and change and update their behaviours and their strategy and so on, because what we set out to do in November, December for the following year, this year being a perfect example. We didn't know that there was going to be a war. We didn't know what was going to happen with interest rates. We're all kind of being told, and the feeling was that this is going to be a great year, after what we've been through. So I think exactly that. You've just got to be able to, think on your feet, not be afraid to change decisions, and that comes from the top, but encourage the guys to do the same, because I think some people, this is what we were going to do. You told us to do that. Well, that was then, but we're changing, but give them the explanation and the reason why for doing it. And I think, hopefully that has been part of our success. And again, going back to, as you say, with some of the bigger boys, they're oil tankers. They can't, it takes them ages to get processed through all the different layers. We can make those decisions relatively quickly. And we've got a great management team here, within our business. We've got a superb culture, one that I'm hugely proud of. Some people that really are behind the cause and want to succeed. And again, hopefully they enjoy the autonomy that they have to be able to make those decisions. I think it's a good way of working. It certainly gets me out of bed in the morning. And I quite like, a bit of a challenge. And when I'm faced with adversity of some description, I think it's when I perform best. Weirdly, we all like to have when things are going well. But actually, when you do have a little bit of a task or challenge ahead of you, within reason, I enjoy that. And I think that's, as I say, when you can then look back and think, we made a difference.
Totally. I really empathise with that. I definitely think that if you had a steady big business that you just wanted to keep doing the same things over and over again, I would definitely not be the leader for that business.
No, I don't think I would.
I think I would be fairly poor at it.
I'd be bored.
But
I think
if there was a business which was either in difficulty, in crisis, or there was an opportunity for great growth or transformation, then I think that's probably like you, where I'd feel happiest. Listen, I've really enjoyed the conversation today.
Yeah, likewise. Thanks, Ian.
So thank you for taking the time to be so honest and open and share. And I'm sure that there's many lessons which all of us can listen and learn from the journey that you've been on and the decisions you've made.
It's been good fun. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Cheers.